Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled 2 for 1 deal on Karens, just in time for Christmas. So I got 2 today. Not nearly as dramatic as my previous I don't work here lady experience, but still rude, annoying, and stupid. Also, major rambling warning. Can't help myself. No brain left. For context, I'm reasonably unconventional appearance-wise, very multicolored hair, multiple tattoos and facial piercings, generally a bit scruffy looking. I definitely rock a look I'd be unlikely to get away with working retail. And today was wearing a black t-shirt. WTNV again, must bring out the nutters, with a pair of tie-dyed pants so baggy that they fit my fat ass with room for a few friends and maybe a surfboard. Honestly, no part of these pants aside from the waistband actually touches my skin and I love them beyond all reason, fashion crime aside. I work in a school for very disadvantaged teenagers, and stupidly volunteered to do Christmas for them. Which means a present for everyone enrolled, 26 girls, 36 boys. And food hampers for the families who otherwise won't have anything nice to eat over the holidays, about 30. I had 4 hours to get this done on a budget, and I'm exhausted and traumatized and very underpaid, thanks so very much. For gifts, I decided on perfumes, colognes. As incredible as I like to pretend to be sometimes, I doubted my ability to find something personal for all 62 kids in a single shopping trip, and it's a luxury they wouldn't otherwise be able to enjoy. So off to major discount chemist I go. It was hell. There were more people in this pharmacy than I thought existed in my entire city, and of course all of them are in the perfume section. People are literally climbing over each other. It looked like the videos I've seen of Black Friday sales in America. Seriously, how do you do that to yourselves? Every year? I actually turned on my heel and walked back out to the van, but reminded myself, it's for the kids, several thousand times before diving back in. 40 minutes and some mild bruising later, I had 4 baskets full of perfume and cologne and was carefully making my way towards the end of the queue, approximately 3.5 kilometers from the checkout, when my shoulder was firmly tapped. I looked over to see a total Karen, in 3/4 jeans, a pastel blouse, and the "I want to speak to the manager" haircut. Just a complete walking meme. Yes? I need one of those. She pointed to one of the perfumes in my topmost basket. They were over in the perfume section, but I'm pretty sure I got the last one. I turned and kept maneuvering my tower of baskets towards the queue. She stepped around me, nearly knocking over my ducking baskets, and blocked the aisle. Staff can't just buy everything on sale before customers. Put them back. She shouted the last bit. Who shouts? I have never ever needed to shout. The duck? I don't work here. I'm shopping. You're in my way. Move. It's hot. I'm already exhausted. I'm trying to do maths in my head. Do you not duck with me? She reached into my basket and grabbed the perfume she wanted. My jaw hit the floor, and I genuinely had no idea how to respond. I mean, I wasn't going to fight a middle-aged woman for a $15 bottle of perfume. My other options didn't sound great either. Fight my way back to the front of the store with my leaning tower of baskets and search for another perfume in the right price range or for a staff member to help me. So I just stared at her, completely baffled as to what was happening right that moment. And she stared back, as if daring me to do something. Thankfully, she had drawn the attention of a security guard, who took back the perfume, told her off for harassing customers, and asked her to continue her shopping or leave. Lovely security guard also took my baskets and put them behind the counter so I could join the queue and pay for them when I got to the front. Bless him. I congratulated myself for surviving another I don't work here lady encounter, and coming in under budget, and moved on to the next part of my shopping hell, hampers. This required a trip to a major supermarket, and I knew I'd need about 4 trolleys worth of groceries. Inspired by lovely security guard, I spoke to customer service when I got there, explained what I was doing, and they allowed me to bring each trolley to the customer service desk when it was full so I could continue shopping and pay all at once at the end. They also offered to help me get it all out to the van. Lovely customer service. I was halfway through trolley number 3 when I hear an "Excuse me?" I turned around, thinking, "Oh duck, not again, go away Karen," to see a perfectly nice-looking little old lady. Phew. Where will I find baking soda? Sorry, no idea. Baking soda was not on my list. And the only thing that mattered in that moment was my ducking list, written in purple texta. Because someone at my work must eat Bearos, on the back of a reading comprehension worksheet, crumpled and sweaty and nearly unreadable. What do you mean you have no idea? You're doing the shelves. She gestured around me, my trolley, my list, and the near-empty shelf behind me. I mean, if by doing the shelves she means removing 30 of everything from them, then sure. I was doing the shelves. I don't usually shop here. Ask up the front. I didn't think it was necessary to tell her that I didn't work there. I wasn't wearing red, and my pants can be seen from space, so even if her eyesight wasn't great, I wasn't in anything approaching a uniform, unless stoners have uniforms now. I wasn't even close to done for the day. I still had shopping to do, then I had to get it all back to campus, unpack it, split it out into hampers and package it back up, wrap 62 presents, and write tags and cards for all of it. I had less than 2 hours left. I was running on pure adrenaline and a constant mantra of, "It's for the kids." Which is of course when the nice little old lady revealed herself to be nothing more than a retired Karen, and started screeching about bad service and calling managers. I couldn't even muster the ducks to respond. I just kept wandering down the aisles, periodically emptying shelves into my trolley. She followed me, screeching, for 2 whole aisles. Unfortunately for her, I work with teenagers and there's no amount of noise I can't drown out. She was at the customer service desk when I went to deposit trolley number 3, complaining about the rude staff member that wouldn't help her find baking soda. She didn't see me, so I continued on, leaving her to describe me to a baffled employee at the service desk. Sorry mate, crap to do. Never volunteering to do Christmas again. Not without a raise, time off in lieu, and a puppy. The next story is entitled Neighbor Thinks He Can Cut Down Trees and Other Greenery on Our Property. My family and I have issues with this neighbor of ours that has been going on for years. When he initially moved in, my parents tried to have a good relationship with him, like helping him out with gardening and letting him get acquainted with the area. Once during fall, my dad was using a leaf blower, mulcher hybrid on the front yard to get rid of the leaves. The neighbor spotted him and asked if he could borrow the tool, to which my dad said sure. Shortly after, the neighbor left with his entire family via car to go somewhere and only came back hours after my dad had finished using the machine. My dad headed back inside the house after he was done, knowing they left and didn't want to wait outside for them to come back. Hours later there was a knock on the and my dad opened it to see the neighbor on the other side, fuming. He ranted at my dad about how it was rude of my dad that he did not wait outside to hand him the leaf blower, mulcher the moment he came back, that my dad should have just stayed outside the entire time and waited for him. My dad, with his "won't take crap from anyone" personality, just told the neighbor that he wasn't going to stand outside for an unknown period of time just to hand over the equipment. He also stated that he had fully planned to give the neighbor the equipment if the neighbor had asked, but now he wasn't going to anymore due to how rude and entitled the neighbor was. This was the first incident of many. I can't fully recall the other incidents, but I know that tensions between my family and the neighbor only grew. On to the big story now. For context, my house is located in a very awkward spot. The neighborhood road, if you can call a few houses a neighborhood lol, was this small strip of road branched off from the main road, and our house faces this road, making it perpendicular to the main road. On the other side of the road from our house is this patch of forest that contained a couple of very tall pine trees, some shrubs, and other greenery. The shrubs and greenery were short and the trees, though most were in front of our house, were spread out so we can easily see the houses on the other side of the patch. On the other side of the forest is the neighbor's house. His house directly faced the road and was perpendicular to it, making his fence up against the forest patch. The forest patch created a 6-foot barrier between the neighbor's fence and the neighborhood road. During the 2018 New Year, my family and I went on vacation and left the house for about a week. When we came back we realized all but 3 pine trees were cut down and 2 of the surviving trees were stripped of branches. Large patches of the greenery and shrubs were missing, and now there was an entire whole path that leads right from the neighborhood road to the neighbor's house. We suspected it was our neighbor as he's had a tree cutting streak. He chopped off all the trees at his property shortly after moving in, including a small ironwood tree. The next day bright and early we see a crew of people with trucks and a wood chipper on the neighborhood road in front of our house. My parents immediately went out and asked the crew what they were doing. According to them, they were hired by our neighbor to clear out the entire forest patch. My parents now headed over to the neighbor's house, which was more accessible now that there's literally a pathway through the forest patch to the neighbor's house, and knocked on his door. When he answered, my parents asked why he hired a crew to clear out the forest patch. He responded that he was clearing it out so that he would have more land to sell to a development company. My parents asked why they were cutting into the forest patch without asking them, as each house owned parts of the forest patch, the portion in front of our houses, and the crew was very much working into our part. He responded that he went to every house and asked for permission. All our other neighbors didn't care about the forest patch and said yes. When he came to our house, there was no answer as we were still on vacation at the time. The neighbor took the lack of answer as a yes and got started with clearing the patch. My parents told him he had no right to be clearing out their portion of the forest patch without their permission, specifically the trees that were cut down, as the majority of the trees were in front of our house. He responded that the trees were within his property line and he did nothing illegal. As stated before, the forest patch put a 6-foot barrier between his fence and the neighborhood road. The 3 feet on his side was his property, while the 3 feet on our side would be ours. My parents then asked who he hired to evaluate the property line, as the trees looked very much to be on our side. And with a smug smile, he responded that he did it himself. My parents informed him that he needed an official from the county to verify the property lines. Again with a smug look, he said that he's in the right and closed the door. The crew hired by our neighbor assured us that they would not be doing any work on the forest patch until the situation has been sorted out. My parents immediately called over someone from the county to come look at the property lines, and when they did, it showed that lots of greenery on our property were removed and all but one of the trees cut down have been on our property. Over the next few days, the crew would come back in the morning but would always knock on our door and informed us they wouldn't be working anywhere near our patch. The neighbor finally came to our door a few days after the previous meeting with a morose look on his face and wanted to talk it out with my dad, reaching a compromise. It would seem that the neighbor finally got someone official to look things over and realized their grave mistake. My dad demanded that the trees he cut down be replaced, not with saplings but actual trees. He allowed the 2 trees with no branches to be cut down as they would stick out like a sore thumb. The 2 trees were eventually cut down. I watched as they cut them down section by section and remember the thumps they made when the sections hit the ground from being dropped. Now it's only the lone tree that's left in the forest patch. Did the neighbor keep his promise? Nope. To this day he has not replaced the trees. My parents aren't the kind to go sue for money or retribution nilly-willy, and they didn't want to go through the stress of a lawsuit. So things just stayed tense on both sides while we just ignored the neighbor and he avoided us. The forest patch used to be home to 2 owls I would hear throughout the night hooting. I miss them a lot, and there were never rats and rabbits around when they were there. Now, why am I posting this story now? Because the neighbor struck again this week. My room is right on top of the garage and I can easily see the neighborhood road and the forest patch. I woke up to the sound of trucks and loud chatter on Monday, and when I looked out I saw a crew of people, with trucks, chainsaws and a wood chipper. I immediately got my parents' attention and my dad again headed out to see what was going on. This crew was hired by our neighbor to do some work on the forest patch. Most of the work planned was to be done on the neighbor's property, but apparently, some of it was to be done on ours too. My dad informed them of what the neighbor did before and that they weren't allowed to work on our property, though it did give his permission to cut down this scraggly bush that didn't look good. The crew understood and did their work on our neighbor's property but left ours completely alone. Last night I was upstairs playing some Genshin Impact. Yes, I know I'm a weeb, when I heard yelling downstairs. I faintly heard my mom saying, "We don't want to fight with you." I left the room I was in to hear my parents having an argument with my neighbor. I hear him screaming how we're causing him issues and costing him money. I guess he paid full up front and couldn't get a partial refund for the work on our property that my dad prevented. I didn't hear the whole conversation, so what I'm typing next is what I heard from my parents. He apparently was stomping his foot like a child and just kept screaming my parents were being a-holes who kept interfering. My parents kept telling him that he didn't have an easement onto our property and he wasn't allowed to modify it as he pleased. He screamed that he didn't know what an easement was and that it doesn't matter, he should be allowed to make changes so he can sell the land to a development company. My parents just ended the conversation by repeatedly telling him to get legal advice or a lawyer before shutting the door in his face. I've been kinda worried this guy will be trying to do some crazy crap sometime and have been considering getting a security camera. My parents have been telling me I'm just being paranoid, but honestly, if the political climate nowadays says anything, it's that people are unpredictable. I have been given permission by my parents that if he ever comes onto the property again and won't leave to hose the mofo. The next story is titled How I Was Employed and Fired in 2 Seconds. Well, for start, few things to say. My first language is not English, so sorry if I make some mistake. It isn't intentional. I am not sure if this story belong exactly here, so don't hate me if not, please. Well, let's go to main story. Startup is pretty similar to what you can find on almost every post here. I am shopping in store, and Sco, some crazy old hag, start yelling at me for not helping me. For info, I came in just for 1 or 2 things, so I didn't get any cart, so my hand was pretty full. I did not took 1 to 2 things but 4 to 5. In short, my hand were full and Sco want from me to get her something from top shelf. I said that I would help her, but I don't have free hand. Oh boy, yelling started. It was all about youngsters not helping their seniors, youngsters not having enough respect for their seniors, etc. Well, for that respect remark, I said that I have respect for those who have respect for me, and if she want yell at me, I would not help her. Well, that wasn't good because she started yelling again. Maybe she even didn't stop so, and started demanding to see my supervisor. Someone froth employees come, and ask what is going on. Sco started again her yelling Tom start, about respect, not helping, etc., and wanted me fired. She didn't believe that or I don't work there, so manager came. Manager listened all the story and told us to wait for a while, another tantrum from Sco. When manager came back, he had some papers and pen and told me to sign it. I was little confused, but read it and immediately understood. It was an employee contract. I signed it, and then heard from manager, "Well, you are fired. Goodbye," and tore the contract apart. Sco was stunned, then read, but when almost everybody started laughing, she left. I was laughing for a really long time. The next story is titled This May Be the Shortest One on Here. My trip to the local superstore. I was at a local superstore called Meijer. It's like Target, etc. I had just gotten off of work and was in my grubby jeans, t-shirt. I was in the garden section looking for tomato cages when I hear fingers snapping and a shrill, "Hello. Hello." I wasn't really paying attention but turned to see Karen is directing her tirade towards me. Yes you, get this down for me," as she points and snaps her fingers again. I just scoff a bit and turn back while shaking my head. I let out a sigh and say, "I don't work here, you ducking idiot." Unbeknownst to me, an employee was in earshot and was heading to her. He doubled over laughing while walking up to her after hearing me, which just sent her overboard. I got what I needed and left, faintly listening to her tirade in the background. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.